Any changes. Blackening level 30%. Favorability negative 95. This made him momentarily stunned. What, does that not increase favorability? Manhwa.k's face darkened. Did he have to do that to increase his favorability? He held Lin's hand and pointed Lin to continue, even though he couldn't help but remember everyone's different eyes towards him. Was it my illusion? Why did I feel like everyone's eyes were looking at me strangely recently? What? The scene changes to the Queen's palace sitting on the chair. Below there is a woman summoned to an audience. This lady with beautiful facial features and pink hair is the daughter of Jing, Manhwa. In her hand she was holding a gem that she wanted to give to the Queen. Queen, this is the illusory sulfur stone that my father deliberately told me to bring to you, with the effect of preserving your beauty. And Manhwa saw the gem and smiled happily and said, quickly come here, let's see if my treasure Hoani has improved in her skills recently. And Manhwa's face showed a lovely smile and took this opportunity to ask. The lady heard about the Six Princes story, so she deliberately came to ask. May I ask the Queen, the Sixth Prince is indeed as rumored? Have purine physique? Hearing her question, the Queen waved her hand, her face full of laughter. Ha ha ha, you are the fifth person to ask me in recent days. The Sixth Prince really has a pure body. When Manhwa heard the certainty, she was full of excitement, and quickly said, this young lady's cultivation base has been stuck in the fusion stage for a long time but has not yet broken through. If I can get your help, the Sixth Prince will definitely succeed. This young lady doesn't want to compete with the other sisters, she just wants to be a concubine. Listening to her words, Manhwa silently thought, her personality is simple, maybe in the future she can become my pawn. For a long time, the Murong clan and Chiti clan have had some grudges. It would be better to take this opportunity to let Manhwa drain Manhwa. Take the opportunity to eliminate Lin, killing two birds with one stone. Thinking so, the Queen curled her lips into a sinister smile. If you already have feelings for the Sixth Prince, this palace will also think of a way to coordinate your marriage. Having said that, she called out loudly, where are you? Then waved her hand and ordered, transmit this palace's will, summon Lin to meet. Following the Queen's orders, not long after that, Manhwa and Lin went to the Queen's palace. The two of them bowed to the throne and paid their respects to the Queen. Manhwa silently lamented, what should have happened has still happened. He recalls that in the original work, the Queen originally just wanted to summon her husband and find an excuse to make her lose her position as concubine. Not only that, this Queen also humiliated the commander. Manhwa remembers Lin as an evil god, his eyes cloudy, his right hand holding a sword, his left hand holding the Queen's head. This was also one of the reasons why the dynasty perished. Thinking of this, he clenched his fists, secretly determined in his heart that this life would not be like that again. Not only did I not become a waste, I even went to the palace with her. In order to protect this small life, I must take the opportunity to increase the villain's favorability. Manhwa had been standing next to the Queen, observing Lang, her face a little red and even a little hungry. But all of this caught Lang's eyes. He couldn't help but feel a little scared. Oh my god. Her eyes looked at me as if she wanted to eat me. At this time, Manhwa looked down at Lin and proactively spoke. Lin, after entering the palace, is there anything unwell in your body? Lin looked at the Queen with a slight frown and asked bluntly. What does the Queen mean by this statement? Manhwa grinned sinisterly. Yin and Yang said strangely. I heard in this palace that the ghost race always likes to stay in dark places. Suddenly coming to this place with bright light like our royal palace, I am afraid you're not used to it. Oh, I almost forgot, you're not a pure demon race, just a mixed race. Lin was teased right in front of her like that. How could she endure it? She became furious. Her body began to erupt with demonic energy, and her blackness also increased from 30% to 33%. Manhwa, standing on the side, panicked when he saw this. It's broken. He quickly walked over and grabbed Lin's hand, which made the girl next to him a bit surprised. He turned to Manhwa and said, Your Highness the Queen, my daughter is very good now. I don't mind the Queen being tired. If the Queen just wants to care about these things, then next time send someone to ask. It's fine, no need to bother my lady running back and forth. Lin saw that Lang stood up to protect him and was extremely moved. But he said he would help me. Accordingly, the blackness level returned to the original 30%, and at the same time, his liking for him increased from -95 up to -90. After Manhwa finished speaking, he looked at the changes in the system and secretly felt happy. Although the blackness level still increased a little, the favorability level increased. Finally found a way to increase favorability beyond that, and even increased it by 5 points at once. Seeing Manhwa.k silently protect Jilin, Mo Dong-min Noyet felt uncomfortable in her heart. Humph, he's just a prince born to a disgraced concubine, and still dares to show off his power in front of me. The queen quickly regained her composure. She waved her hand and got down to business and said, "Okay, this palace won't beat around the bush with you anymore. This palace has always felt that Manhwa is suitable to be my royal highness. The sixth prince is better, so this time I invited you here because I want you to separate." Jilin heard what she said. She excitedly grabbed Manhwa's hand and stood up to retort. "If I have already married Manhwa, then unless he proactively retires, I will not agree." Reconciliation. She said so on the outside, but in her heart there was resentment. If he agrees to retire, then I will turn him into a white skeleton, forever unable to be reborn. Manhwa had no cultivation level. But suddenly Jilin grabbed his hand and pulled him away. The pain was so much that his face turned pale. "It hurts so much, brother, I really thank you." When Mo Dong-min Noyet saw that Jilin dared to oppose her will, she angrily pointed her finger and ordered, "Shut up! This palace's decision is not yet your turn to defy orders. If that's the case, sixth prince, retire." The queen pointed her finger at Manhwa and continued to command, "Marry Manhwa to be your royal concubine. I will reward you with countless rare treasures." At this time, Manhwa stood aside, not understanding what was going on, slightly frowning. "This is not at all the same as what I said before. It was clear that I was only willing to say that being a concubine was willing." Seeing the unstable situation, she stood up to advise. "Your Majesty the Queen, if you handle it like that, this young lady will also find it unsatisfactory. It would be better to let this young lady and Princess Lin compete in a fair match." People often said that the royal family's wife had always had to draw dragons and embroider phoenixes, be able to dance beautifully and sing well, but had no noble talent. So she was willing to compete with others in embroidery, singing, dancing, and cultivation. Princess, if this young lady is lucky enough to win, then I hope the sixth prince can fulfill this young lady. Hearing this, Mo Dong-min Noyet immediately fell into thought. This contest is also a way to eliminate her in a righteous way. This girl will probably lose in the first 2 matches. Thinking so, she let out a smug sigh of satisfaction. After that, the queen immediately stood up and waved her hand to instruct. "Okay, then do as you say, but if you lose, you will have to give up the position of main wife." Manhwa looked at Manhwa and silently calculated. "Although this woman looks beautiful, she cannot be my wife. Right now, Lin alone is enough to dry me dry. Add another person and I'm afraid it won't be long before I dry up too. Fortunately, we now have an almost invincible system on us, so let's help Jilin win this competition." As planned, he leaned closer and whispered to Lin, "You just accept my challenge. I will find a way to help you win." Jilin heard him speak and frowned slightly in doubt. What exactly was this old man thinking in his heart? 3 days later, it was also the day of the competition between Jilin and Manhwa. Early in the morning, Manhwa brought Jilin. The 2 girls sat at both ends of the table. Manhwa stood next to his wife. Next to him was a slave who had just brought 2 identical items for the 2 girls to compete against. Jilin sat down, slightly curled her lips and spoke, making Manhwa startled and glanced over. She asked, "What are you going to do?" Manhwa waved his hand and smiled, saying, "Don't worry, just listen to me and I have a way to help you win." The servant brought the hourglass as he walked and said, "This contest is about the embroidery skills of the 2. The time is 2 hours. The topic is unlimited. In the end it will be up to the old man to decide the outcome of the match. Competition, let's get started." As soon as the words ended, 2 girls immediately brought Jilin and Manhwa each a roll of fabric and colorful threads. On this side, Manhwa is the most confident in her skills. Her mouth smiles constantly. Her hands hook back and forth continuously. The fabric also shows a similar rosy flower pattern. You can see that she is very experienced. Jilin, sitting on the opposite side, was still frowning and leaning on her hands, thinking, what exactly did Manhwa want to do? Did he intentionally want me to lose this competition? Just as she was still bewildered, Manhwa suddenly took out a glowing green card, held it out and said it was time. "Look here." On the card there is a picture of a lotus flower. Below is the words, "The Emperor of the Flower." Jilin's cloth lit up strangely. She suddenly opened her mouth and asked, "What is this?" A moment later, the hourglass ran out, signaling the end of the first contest. At this time, the old woman came over, clasped her hands, looked at Jilin and announced, "Okay, it's time. please put your works up." As soon as the words ended, the movements of the two girls immediately stopped. She picked up Dong Ho's canvas, pointed at it, and sobbingly praised that she was worthy of the Mo Dung family. This newly bloomed lotus painting was indeed very delicate, very lifelike. Hastily putting the painting down, she turned to look at Qilin and said gently with a slightly disdainful tone, "Next, let me see Luke Vong Phai's work." Qilin in the eyes of Mo Dung Min Noyet is just a girl, just the child of the second lady who instructed her to consort with the demon race. Probably without any education, extremely vulgar. This time Hoa Ni will surely win. That's how evil people think. But when she saw Qilin's painting, her eyes turned into an A and her mouth turned into an O and stammered, Luke, princess, this painting of mountains and water is truly magnificent. I have never seen a work as heroic and magnificent as this." She was so surprised that her legs buckled. Her hands slammed on the table as if she couldn't believe her eyes. Doc Lang saw this and thought proudly, "Success." The old woman began to examine every detail. Her finger stopped at Tom and the little mouse Jenny. The more she looked, the more surprised she became. She kept praising. It was just a creature playing around in this forest that she had never seen before. She didn't know that Doc Lang had traveled here from time to time, and that those two little animals were also from the other world. Not knowing how to explain properly, he could only pretend to cough for a few times, and then randomly think of an excuse. "There's something you don't know about this. This is abstract art." Hearing that, the old woman was convinced and nodded and said, "So it's like that. My knowledge is limited. I didn't expect Queen Luke to be so creative. I declare, in this competition, Luke the princess wins." When Mo Dung Min Noyet heard her say that Qilin Min won, she also opened her mouth in surprise and disbelief, and then grimaced and asked what she said. Dong Ho angrily crossed her arms and stood facing Qilin, thinking to herself, "The next match must definitely win against you." Qilin was still surprised. She silently asked, "So Doc Lang can really make me win? How did he do it?" Then, an hour later, the next dancing competition began. The bad-tempered queen pointed something with her finger and thought proudly, "You were lucky to win in the last match. No matter what happens in this match, you won't be able to win." The music started to play. The hands with red nails appeared in a dream. The sound of bracelets colliding together was as flexible as rubber. The legs were also not average. They were already slim and still fast, smooth movement off the table. Qilin wears an Indian-style red scarf on her head, combined with light makeup, but her beauty is top-notch, as if a beauty from a storybook came out. Oh, and she is truly the real beauty in the story, with perfect curves, a graceful and gentle dance that is extremely attractive to viewers, plus that outstanding beauty. Doc Lang held in his hand the Huin Vu card that had not yet been used, his eyes showing excitement, praising, "So cute." He is confident that if his wife doesn't help her in this battle, she can win too. Turning to look at Dum, Hoa immediately lost interest. Although her beauty is not ordinary, compared to Qilin, this woman seems to be dancing rather than dancing. Doc Lang proudly cheered. The victory was certain. The eunuch stepped forward and pointed at the mandarins who had been lining up to watch. "The victory or defeat of this match will be decided by everyone present. Please write the winner's name on the paper." Doc Lang looked at the crowd of officers in front of him in shock, not believing his eyes. His eyebrows suddenly wrinkled. He asked, "How is this possible?" As if they had been told in advance, everyone had no emotions on their faces and handed out a piece of paper with the name of the person they chose, Murong Hoa, written on them. Qilin stared at the papers and gasped. She thought she was sure of victory, but she didn't expect this to happen. Mo Dung Min Noyet looked at the results in front of her, quickly covered her hands and chuckled, her eyes calculating. These judges are all her people. No matter what, Qilin cannot win. On this side, Doc Lang pursed his lips in anger. He thought to himself, very good, playing this trick, right?" He turned to look at his unhappy wife and the girl Mo Dung Hoa next to him, then silently cursed. "Damn old woman, I'll show you the victory." When the third competition began, Doc Lang went to Qilin and gave her a sparkling ring and said, "Miss, you wear this on your body. You will use it later when competing." Qilin reached out to receive it and asked softly, "This is?" He gently replied, "When the time comes, you will know." Qilin wore the ring in her hand, looked back and forth and thought to herself, "But I can't find out the grade of this ring." Dung Hoa and Qilin stepped onto the ring, holding swords in their hands. With a shout of greeting, both immediately bowed down to greet their opponents. Immediately after that, the two began to rush at each other. Dung Hoa jumped up, held out his hand holding his sword, and said loudly, "I have offended you." Qilin below was startled and raised his eyes to look at her. Seeing that, she quickly reflexively brought her